fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. For a limited time, get 25% off on this introductory offer. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. ancientdefense.com.
This weekend, it became a political football for people to attack the governor of Texas. What they've done is they've created straw man arguments about what we have said about Jade Helm, about who Alex Jones is, and they're using that to try to beat up Governor Abbott. Take a look at this NPR story. Texas governor deploys state guard to stave off Obama takeover. That is never what anybody said. Of course, this is a very sarcastic piece. It kind of reads like The Onion, but of course it is NPR, so keep that in mind. Now, this is what they're saying. What's really going on? Well, President Obama is about to use special forces to put Texas under martial law. You see, there are these Walmarts in West Texas. I'm reading from this, directly quoting from this. They're supposedly closed for 6 months for renovation. That's what they want you to believe. And then further down, he says, did I mention the ISIS terrorists? They're going to come across the border. They're going to hit soft targets all over the Southwest. They've set up camps just a few miles outside of El Paso. And by the way, he wrote that 22 hours before the shooting in Garland, Texas. Maybe he would like to take some of that back. But I guess I'm most concerned about the fact that there was a local reporter, local TV station, KView. I spent a lot of time trying to educate her about what was going on because I felt like she was actually doing real journalism to the extent that she would call and ask us about what's going on. Now, of course, her management there, the editors, wanted a fear versus fact. They were not calling us for the fact side. They just wanted some fear and paranoia to put our name on. Of course, they did not quote us. They only quoted, and we'll talk about those sources that they quoted, but take a look at the headlines that they came up with. Conspiracy theorists are fired up over Jade Helm. And in this particular article, now this came from, I think, an affiliate, KHOU. These are both ABC affiliates. Talks about how this has ignited a firestorm of conspiracy theorist speculation as a prelude to the declaration of martial law. One widely repeated conspiracy, so forth and so on. And then the lieutenant colonel. They really want this to be a greater conspiracy. No, I think, Lieutenant Colonel, you want this to be a conspiracy theory. That's why you keep using the term over and over again, as the government has to anybody who is skeptical of the government's official story since the JFK assassination. They coined the term to try to shut down any skepticism, any investigation of an improbable explanation for what we had seen there. And then, of course, we've got this from the judge at the meeting in Bastrop. He says, this was not about changing anybody's mind, this meeting in Bastrop. So I guess we would ask, what exactly was that meeting about? Was it simply a propaganda meeting where they could just tell us what they wanted to? They didn't think they were going to change anybody's mind. And yet later on, he goes to say in these stories that he thinks that the majority of people now understand this and they really have changed people's minds. Listen, they ignored Jade Helm for over a month. For the most part, they ignored people's reaction, the public's reaction. And then when the governor paid attention to people's reactions, they came back full-blown, attacking him as caving in to conspiracy theorists. Here's another one from KView. Jade Helm 15 exercise sparks fear. See, they wanted to get that fear in there, and backlash. They said the backlash has been fueled by conspiracy theories, mentioning everything from martial law to UN plans to saying that Walmart was helping by shutting down multiple stores for various reasons. And of course, I think the key thing to take away from this is that even Walmart is not immune to conspiracy theories or to people questioning what they're saying when it is clearly a lie. I personally don't believe that that has anything to do with this exercise. Nevertheless, when they say they're shutting these stores down for 6 months for plumbing, everybody from plumbing contractors to the local government officials who say no plumbing permits have been withdrawn from these areas, everybody is saying that clearly is not what's happening. So whether they're coming after the union employees in those particular locations or what, we all just can speculate. But nobody believes the official story, and that's what's going on with Jade Helm as well. Then they go after, as they put it, Austin conspiracy theorist Alex Jones and his website. See, we don't have a media organization here. We just have a conspiracy theory website. Now, they even go on to point out one of the people at the Bastrop saying, well, I hope I'm not a conspiracy theorist. See, we can even adopt this language ourselves. We need to not be afraid of it. There's worse things than being a skeptic when the government or when corporations are telling you obvious lies. The worst thing is to engage in propaganda, especially as a journalist. And I'm very disappointed that after spending a lot of time and giving a detailed report, that they would ignore what we told them. They would ignore the facts. She came to me, she had not even bothered to look at the slides that were part of the initial report. Slides that they were taking from location to location, seeking written invitations, as they put it. Now they move on and they talk about how politicians are rising up to criticize Governor Abbott. Now, of course, these are politicians who are no longer in office, trying to claw their way back in by attacking the guy at the top. They say while Abbott's move may have helped to quell the concerns of some who are concerned with the conspiracy theories, they just keep repeating that over and over again as if they think that's going to make it believable. It also drew a backlash from former members of the Texas House and a former lieutenant governor. Todd Smith, a former Republican member of the House, accused Abbott of pandering to idiots. Let's talk about who this Todd Smith is. This is somebody who was a state legislator, and he lost back in 2012, 65-35 in his own primary. Why? Because he championed not having any voter ID. And then they go on to Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, who didn't make it very far in the run for governor this last time. Now, Dewhurst, they report in KView, is a veteran of the Vietnam era. And they have some clips from an editorial that he wrote for the Dallas Morning News. Well, you know what? Republican Lieutenant Governor, former Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst was far more than just a Vietnam vet. He was somebody that spent a long time working for the CIA, and he never talks about that. Now, we had an article back in 2011. If you remember, there was a bill in Texas to stop the TSA from molesting children and adults as they are now allowed to do. That got a lot of support in the House. It passed unanimously in the House. And then Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, former CIA operative, got involved. And then at that point, we saw the government threaten to turn Texas into a no-fly zone. At the time we reported this, we quoted Senator Patrick from Houston saying, Dewhurst came up with this elaborate political play to kill the bill without his fingerprints, but his fingerprints are all over this. Now, at the time, Paul Joseph Watson pointed out that Dewhurst was also director of the Texas Task Force on Homeland Security, saying that during his tenure in the CIA in the early 1970s, Dewhurst helped the U.S. government violently overthrow democratically elected regimes in South America to plunder their oil and other resources, including the coup that helped neo-Nazi Bolivian General Banzer Suarez come to power. He was aided by a notorious Nazi, Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, who escaped France after the end of World War II to enter Bolivia. And as Watson goes on to point out, Barbie, an expert in cruel and inhumane forms of torture for the purposes of interrogation, was a key CIA liaison through the years that Dewhurst served in South America. And when the Austin Chronicle asked Dewhurst whether he enjoyed a drink with the Butcher of Lyon at his U.S. Embassy bar, he responded, "I never comment on intelligence matters." That's right. He doesn't talk about his CIA background very much. When he was in the Air Force, they say he was an airman, a Vietnam vet, but he was in Air Force intelligence for 3 years, and then he says he was in the CIA for 4 years and got out. Nevertheless, 20 years later, George H.W. Bush, a man many of us believe had far more extensive CIA involvement than he has on his resume, said this when he recommended Dewhurst to Senator Dole for inclusion in a Blue Ribbon Intelligence Committee panel. He said, "As you will see from the enclosed resume, Dewhurst knows the CIA from the inside." So that's somebody that KView would go to get an objective opinion about Jade Helm. Somebody who is a political enemy of Governor Abbott, somebody who has deep, secretive, questionable ties with the CIA. Then we go on for another source that they quote at KVUE, and this is senior military analyst Paul Floyd. Well, who is he a senior military analyst for? Well, that would be for Stratfor. Stratfor. Let's talk about Stratfor for a second, because you may have forgotten about that. Let's go back to February 2012, about 3 years ago. Here's a story from The Guardian. WikiLeaks Stratfor dump lifts the lid on intelligence industrial complex. They say 5 million internal emails from Stratfor, and this is, of course, a company that's based in Austin. They say the most striking revelation from the latest disclosure is not simply the military-industrial complex that conspires to spy on citizens, activists, and trouble causers, but the extremely low quality of the information available to the highest bidder. And then they go on to say what is even more disturbing is that the information revealed that HB Gary Federal and Stratfor suggests both companies were also seeking to profit by disrupting journalists and activist groups. HB Gary Federal documents suggest that they were marketing a campaign for Bank of America to attack Glenn Greenwald of Salon, and for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to attack the Washington, D.C.-based think tank, the Center for American Progress. Okay? Now, they also point out that they've been actively following and doing dirty tricks to Union Carbide activist groups like the Bhopal Medical Appeal, because they had that massive spill in Bhopal. So if we back this up and we look at the objective analysis that we get from just one media outlet here, the ABC media outlet, they have as a source a former CIA lieutenant governor who shut down the bill to get the TSA in line, threatening to turn Texas into a no-fly zone. But don't be concerned about any kind of martial law or any kind of over-the-top military training by special forces in Texas. Then they go to Stratfor, who has their own conspiracy theory reality. This is a conspiracy reality show if you look at these emails. And then finally, they go to the man who is the spokesperson, the lieutenant colonel who is the spokesperson for the exercise. Finally, I would say that Ted Cruz nailed it when he said, I understand why people fear a possible military takeover of Texas. He says, I understand the concern that's been raised by a lot of citizens about Jade Helm. He says, it's a question I'm getting a lot. And I think part of the reason is we have seen for 6 years a federal government disrespecting the liberty of our citizens, and that produces fear, which is right back where we started. There you go, KVUE. There's your quote for where the fear comes from. I would only disagree with Ted Cruz in saying this has only been going on through Obama. It's been going on much longer than 6 years. It is a bipartisan problem. Well, stay with us. We're going to be right back, and we're going to take a look at some immigration news that may surprise you. It's tied in with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We'll be right back.
A chemical spill contaminating the water supply in 9 West Virginia counties.
What are the health effects of having these drugs in our drinking water?
It's forced medical treatment without the consent of residents.
My friends, water filtration is one of the most basic actions you can take to protect you and your family from the harmful toxins and heavy metals in your tap water.
On average, the county says it sprays with the glyphosate at least once a week.
Few filters cut out the glyphosates that is found in water supplies worldwide. Remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, hydrofluorosilicic acid, sodium hexafluorosilicate.
Fluoride, it is in tea, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in bread, it's in toothpaste.
It is our responsibility to protect our families. The establishment's not going to do it. It's time to take action. It's time to filter our water.
Go to InfoWarsStore.com today, and for a limited time, use the promo code WATER20 and get 20% off all ProPure products. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com, or give our crew a call at 888-253-3139.
Did you know that only 6 corporations control 90% of what millions of Americans see, hear, and read every single day? It's the illusion of choice. Think about it. The mainstream media is owned by only a handful of megacorporations with vested interests. But on the other hand, the internet is an interconnected network of billions of sources. So you can research information for yourself from multiple sources, or you can blindly accept what you hear or read in the mainstream media, never questioning what you are being told. This gives you a false sense of reality. I mean, do you actually know what you think you know? Or have you been programmed to accept someone else's version of events? Think about it. This is Darren McBreen, and I want you to break the matrix at INFOWARS.com and PrisonPlanet.tv and listen to